Good rising, brethren. This is Big Judah coming to you guys in California. Before I begin, in all praise to the Most High Yahweh. Acknowledgement to the earthly mother. Who is wisdom? Who is the Holy Spirit? Acknowledgement to Yahweh Shai. I pray the Most High blesses this lesson this evening, gives us more knowledge and understanding of the events of the past, in order to understand events that are currently happening on the earth, so we get a much better understanding of the things that are soon to come on the earth. We're going to get back into art history now. We've got a lot of books to jump around in. And, once we started to line it up with scripture, it's going to make so much more sense. Just the way that we have been led by the nose all over the place by the Gentiles, how they've hidden everything. And I know that some people were kind of like talking about how this is kind of overwhelming, the information. And the thing is, I'm bringing it out little by little because it is kind of difficult for some because, hey, you don't realize the extent of the lies. And you get the information, you internalize it and then see how it fills with your spirit. I said all the books that we go into are going to have some truths, some things that might not be as true, and we have to have the spirit of discernment right now and see what makes sense, what connects with our spirit, because these are the times that we're in. We can't just take what Gentiles have said, wholeheartedly, but that's how we were taught before. Anything that was in a book and anything that they told us, don't question it. It's all true. But now we need to actually really take our time, internalize this information, pray about it, and see how it fits. When we understand how things are supposed to work as far as the Most High's chosen people, we're going to go, we're going to be cursed. You go into Deuteronomy 28, you look at the curses. We broke the commandments. Then look at how, his people, Daniel 9, 11, and 12, how we were the ones that were going to be the most destroyed of all people. Then you start to realize when they started writing these books, they're talking like it's about Irish people, like the white Irish. We know those people were not the ones that have gone through these punishments. They're not the ones that have been completely destroyed. They're not the ones that have had their memory wiped out of the earth. That's how it's talking about us. When you read things that are in these books, and it talks about how thoroughly they destroyed Druidism and how they destroyed, the memory of the Iberno Celtics and all that information, you start to understand why, the Gentiles have just they have no understanding, and how that your fathers have inherited lies, how deep that's going to go. Even now, growing up, we think about the Boston Celtics, who they made that the whitest team they possibly could, right? We made it when we were growing up, we were like Lakers fans, and we hear about the Boston Celtics and think about how racist the people were, how it was a racist team, and Red Auerbach, and how he didn't like black, all these things, because they really took the Celtic name and that whole thought process and applied it to these white people, and it's been in our minds as well. So we would never make the connection that, hey, we're the Celtics, we are the original people of those lands, we are the original people of that area. We would never put two and two together. That just shows you, I said, how deep Psalms 83 goes. How we've been, just it's just been worked in our minds, worked in society, that the Celtics were white people, and and the people over there are, white. You just think of white. First thing you think of Celtics, you think of Larry Bird, but now it's like, hold on, that's our stuff. That's us. It fits us. And when you start reading some of the stuff, you can start to see how they changed up so much stuff. We're only reading a few pages out of this book. And I know the PDF of this book here, you can get the PDF, Irish Wisdom, preserved in Bible and pyramids. But the PDF has about 184 pages, and this book has about 235 pages. But you can at least get started with the PDF if you can find it, and go from there. All right. Irish Wisdom, preserved in Bible and pyramids. Okay, we're going to read a little bit here. Let's see here. In ancient times, the ruler of the state, according to the extent of his power, dependent as to whether he was an overlord or king, having subject king as vassals, or being a subject king himself, held two offices jointly in his own person: the king or emperor, and that of head of the church in his dominion. So the same thing as our people, right? The priest kings, right? The fact of his holding such autocratic power led to the assumption of attributes of divinity in order to hold the people in awe of him. The qualities of divinity we have seen attributed to rulers in our day, in Russia, China, Japan, and not so long ago in England. The belief was held that any disease which would not yield to the treatment of a physician could be cured by a mere touch of the king's hand, or even of his garment. The head of the Irish state church held this supreme pontifical power in Europe until challenged first by Persia, then by Greece, and later by Rome, who, when a favorable time arrived for her to assert her independence, set up jointly a church and state for herself. And that's your setting up the abominable church that we read about in the Book of Mormon, 1 Nephi 13. Right there when she set up the church and state for herself. Okay, we already know that that's the abominable church set up by Satan. So here we go. For let it be known, Rome was at one time a colony of Ireland. See, these things are all hidden. That actually the area where Rome is today was actually a colony of Ireland. We're going to be getting into this today because a lot of the ways that we think that expansion happened from the east to west, it was actually the opposite. It was from west to east. That's what this talked about here in this book. So this is something that kind of, people don't really think about. This information that people don't think. See, this is what is so beautiful at the Most High. See, the Most High makes this author probably think that this stuff was referring to him. The white Irish. And they're writing all this stuff thinking it's referring to them, not knowing or not realizing that they're really giving us our history back. They're preserving the Israelites' history. And when you start to read, we're going to keep reading, you're going to start to see the attributes of our people here, okay? So again, for let it be known, Rome was at one time a colony of Ireland. The name Rome is a compound of two Irish words: ro, meaning before, and own, meaning body, earth, or grave. But in its mythical meaning, it is made to signify before heaven and earth. So before heaven and earth. The two, just kind of get you thinking right here about Rome. So we just start to think about, what was there before the so-called white people took over? Was this already there, the Colosseum? Did they really build it, or did they just take it over? You got this right here, St. Peter's Square, which we know looks just like Teotihuacan's area right there. And we know Teotihuacan was there way before this area was built. And you go right there. You got your obelisk right there, your phalanx right there. You got one there. You got one in Britain. You got one here in the Americas as well. 3 heads of the eagle. But together, meaning heaven and earth. Hence the eternal city of Rome. You see that whole Rome actually coming from compound Irish words. Oh, and there's much more that's coming. See, I didn't realize that. Because the river of Rome, the Tiber, also bears an Irish name. It derives its name from tuber, the Irish word for a well or spring of water. Hence, the Tiber is the spring water river. As the poet Longfellow truly says, their names are on your waters, and ye may not wash them out. See, the Most High made them leave these words so that later on we would get this information again. We would get this understanding again. Their names are on your waters, and ye may not wash them out. They've been trying their best to hide everything. But we knew that we're going to get this knowledge and understanding back. And then the words that they use, the places that they have set up, are going to tell on them. You're going to tell that they've been lying, and it let us know who was there before the so-called white people showed up. The fact is that Ireland was the first power that colonized along both sides of the Mediterranean Sea. And therefore, the colonies came from the west instead of from the east, as our astute Roman and British historians would have us believe. And the world has believed it up till now. But the deception, okay, when once exposed, is too clear for anyone to be deceived by it. So right there, it's like the colonization went the opposite direction. And you know what? And when you understand that everything is the opposite of what they say, everything is the opposite of what they say. Has it not been? Black is evil, white is pure, right? The end of the year is in the winter, right? The New Year's in the winter, not in the spring. Just everything that they've said has been a lie. So them saying that actually the expansion came from from east to west would make sense that it would be actually the opposite of what they've said. So you guys can read this part here on your own. I'm going to go ahead and continue, okay? Because we got a lot to get into. I'm going to skip on down to where it says, we are told that the Phoenicians planted, actually, let's go up to there, to obscure knowledge of this homeland and the reasons for doing so, have engaged the greatest organized propaganda for spreading misinformation that we have any knowledge of, as will become apparent in these pages. Okay, so it's just a huge organized propaganda of spreading misinformation. And we know that's exactly what's been going on. And that goes back to Psalms 83. You see, like when this guy here is talking about this book and he's giving this information, they don't connect it with the scriptures. They don't connect it to why is there this huge organized propaganda for spreading misinformation? Because they're trying to blot out the name of Israel worldwide. And it has to be worldwide because our people were worldwide. We were everywhere. So therefore, this takedown was not just about the so-called Middle East. It's not just about so-called Europe. It's not just about so-called America. This is a worldwide takedown. And this misinformation must be spread everywhere. And everyone must be complicit with it. Everyone must be complicit with not telling the truth. And when they do, they would be taken out. They would be silenced. They said they would lose their jobs, lose their profession, lose their credibility. If you think about the movie like 2012, and when they're all trying to keep everything a secret, and the one guy, the art guy, was going to go and talk about how all the artwork wasn't where they said it was going to be, and they silenced him. And then when the one guy was in Yellowstone, and he was talking to the other crazy dude, and he's like, "Oh, well, look at all these people that they've, they tried to talk, and all the people that got killed. They're all dead." Well, that's what's been going on, but it wasn't just about, the destruction of 2012. It's been about who the real children of the Most High are. And as long as they had our minds, wrapped around this society, sports, these distractions, they had no problem keeping the lie going. But as we came out of the curses, Most High shut down society. Most High raised up his people to be able to teach. And now more people were disconnecting from society and reconnecting with the Father because they were being called. That's what you're seeing now. So now you start to see how it is engaged in a great organized propaganda for spreading misinformation that we have any knowledge of, as will become apparent in these pages. And you're going to see some more right now. We are told that the Phoenicians planted those colonies and that they came from the east, from the coast of what is now Syria, or Phoenicia, as they say it was formerly called. Ireland is the homeland of the Phoenicians, which word is a secret name for the insular race of mariners and traders who carried on commerce with the whole world. See, this is telling you where they've told you these people originated from is not true. Now, you first hear that, you're like, hey, you know what? They told us that they wouldn't lie to us. Well, wouldn't they? Of course they would lie to us. All you get to also just connect that with Acts 29, how they just chopped that out of the scriptures. And it actually is in the Sefer. They put Acts 29 back into the Sefer. But in the 1611, they took it out. But you're starting to see they're trying to hide this connection with our people and the lands of Britain and Ireland. You're starting to understand why. Okay. So again, it's just saying the Phoenicians. Okay, Ireland is the homeland of the Phoenicians. You're going to see why right now. Why it makes much more sense. Now it's like, hey, you're hearing these different concepts. Now listen to his reasoning. Sidon and Tyre are mythical names applied for purposes of deception to the two cities at the eastern end of the Mediterranean Sea. Sidon is an Irish word and means the hips or buttocks. Tyre means the earth or body. And the purple color or dye, which we are told made this city famous, is the blood which courses through the body. The coast of Syria was never suited to the needs of a seafaring race, and such a race never developed there. Does that not make sense? The coast of Syria was never suited to the needs of a seafaring race, and such a race never developed there. Now that makes a lot of sense. I said, you're like in a deserty area. You would actually need an island, harbors, places to build ships, tin. This is what they end up using for a lot of the ship. I mean, a lot of things that you actually have access for, that you actually have access to that you need for building ships would actually be, you'll see where right now. Okay. Again, the coast of Syria was never suited to the needs of a seafaring race, and such a race never developed there. But Ireland, an island indented with bays, lows, and harbors, was suitable to the development of just such a race as we should expect to find there. Now, check this out. Remember, in one book that I have about the Atlantis, and it was talking about the Negro faces that they found in Palenque. But they said, oh, well, the only way, the Negroes were not a seafaring race. They didn't go on ships. They didn't make ships. So they had to have been brought over here. They must have been enslaved earlier than we thought and were brought over here as slaves. You see, like they have to go back to, we don't swim. We don't know how to swim. We don't know how to actually navigate. We don't actually like water. We don't build ships. It's always been just white people. You see that the lie has just been perpetuated for so long. But you're going to see some of the actually best seafaring people were our people. And you can see the lie of saying, oh, it's Syria. Oh, it's all over here. That's where they built all these ships. And it makes much more sense. And it does make much more sense that it's actually Ireland and Britain. Because what happened when the so-called white people took over Britain? They all of a sudden became a naval power. They weren't making their ships on the coast of Syria. They were making them on their islands because it was suited for that. Let's continue. For secret reasons, right here, for secret reasons, and here's a picture right here for, representing the Phoenicians, okay? The name Phoenicians was applied to the Irish race. So check this part out. This is another mind-blowing fact coming up right now. So for a reason here, a secret reason, the name Phoenicians was applied to the Irish race. It is written purposely in this form of spelling, which has served well in throwing people off the track and helped very well in keeping up the deception. If they had written the word in its plain form of Phoenician, changing the right there, we're changing it to the F right there, I'm just writing like this, Phoenician, there would be too many who are liable to see the true meaning of it and thereby get a clue to the real truth, which was meant to be concealed. The word Fion or Finn is an Irish name of the sun. Okay, and the Phoenicians were the Irish sun worshippers, or the Magian priests of Isa, the Irish sun god, who brought their civilization and arts already developed in Ireland with them to Egypt. So you see here, it's talking about right here. The word Fion or Finn is an Irish name of the sun, and the Phoenicians were the Irish sun worshippers, or the Magian priests of Isa, the Irish sun god, who brought their civilization and arts already developed in Ireland with them to Egypt. There they erected their monumental altars to the god of the sun, of which the Great Pyramid was a crowning symbol and masterpiece. They carried their mission from there to the farther lands of the east. Plain documentary evidence of the ordinary kind to prove these facts has been destroyed. Right there, they're destroying information. That makes so much sense. But in their stead, a secret system was adopted to preserve them, or rather to conceal them from profane eyes, so that the facts can be attested to and proved in the most convincing manner by the aid of the covert or hidden illusions, and by the secret code intended solely for the benefit of the anointed few, the priesthood. But those monuments which they left behind, although now in ruins from Vandal hands, speak most eloquently for them. They testify in the most emphatic and convincing manner as to who their authors were. Their testimony is most pronounced and unimpeachable, and puts to flight all false witnesses. So right there, again, now you got all these Irish words. Okay, you have these Irish words right here for Phoenicians, for Tyre, for Rome, for Sidon, all being hidden in plain view.